This is the fifth and the last episode of our series on yacht registration and VAT in Europe. If you are watching this right now, I really congratulate you because you have reached the end of a topic that most people try to handle with one magical sentence: how to avoid paying VAT. And we took a different route. In previous episodes, we broke down this world into its fundamental parts. I talked about the significance of the flag, the differences between private and commercial registration, about Poland, Malta, exotic flags, and about high-profile scandals where clever yacht owners lost their battles with the tax authorities, sometimes losing vessels worth tens of millions. Today, we will put all of this into one simple story. A story about how to legally own a yacht in the European Union, how not to lose it due to VAT, flag, and inspections, and when it truly makes sense to get involved in tax structures, and when it is simply a waste of time and money. At the end of this episode, I will introduce something new, a mini-series about hiring crew on a yacht and all the problems associated with it. Because a yacht is not just carbon, aluminum, and teak, it's also the people on board, and behind them come labor laws, conventions, costs, and risks. Let's start with one brutally honest question. Before you even think about a flag, Malta, Poland, the Cayman Islands, ask yourself one question. Is this yacht meant solely for you and your loved ones, or do you really want it to operate in charter? Not as an alibi, not for 2 invoices a year. Seriously, as a business, this is the point where everything begins. Because if the yacht is to be your private toy, your private escape from the world, then the logic and structure of the entire setup will be completely different than when you plan a fleet, charter management, clients for charter, and a revenue table. The second question is, who should be the owner? You as an individual or your company? And the third, where will the yacht actually sail, mainly in Europe or rather everywhere? Some Mediterranean Sea, some Caribbean, some other waters. If you reverse this order and start with the field flag Malta or flag Cayman Islands, there is a good chance you'll end up with a construction that looks nice in the presentation but begins to fall apart in real life during the first major inspection. Imagine 3 people. The first is an owner from Europe. He has a company, is financially well off, and wants to fulfill his dream: a yacht to sail with his family around Italy, Croatia, and south of France. No charter plans, no guests on invoices, just a private yacht. The second person is also a union resident, but thinks differently. I want the yacht to work for me. Charters in the summer, a few weeks for myself, the rest of the season for earning. It should be a business element, not just a hobby. Third person lives outside the union, let's say in London after Brexit or in Dubai. The yacht is something global for her. Caribbean winter, Mediterranean summer, the whole world is open. Each of these 3 cases requires a different response. And right now, we will go through them one by one, without dry points, just like talking to clients at the table. Let's start with the first type, a union resident, a private yacht, usually valued up to about 2 million euros. In the real world, in this configuration, the best and most sensible scenario looks like this. First, we accept that VAT simply has to be paid. You buy a yacht with VAT from a dealer, or you import it from abroad and pay VAT upon import into the union. You receive a document that clearly states VAT paid. From that moment on, the yacht is clean throughout the union. During inspection, you just show the paper, and that's it. No philosophy involved. Secondly, you choose a flag not for tax optimization, but for user comfort and administrative costs. And here, Poland very often wins. Why? Because the Polish flag is today in Europe a bit of a bureaucratic paradise for private yachts. Registration is relatively cheap, accessible to owners from different countries. You can handle everything simply and remotely, up to 24 meters. And the registration itself is indefinite. You don't pay annually to renew the paperwork. Poland does not offer any magical VAT exemption. But if you are still paying VAT, it doesn't make sense to overpay just for the registration because someone advised you to go for a more exotic option. For a private owner from the EU who wants to have a yacht sail peacefully and not invent structures, the combination of paid VAT plus Polish flag is simply sensible. Second scenario, owner from the union, but with a different approach. The yacht is to operate. It is to generate income. Season in Croatia or the Mediterranean Sea, charter calendar, guests, invoices, crew permanently. We no longer talk about a gadget here. We are talking about a business tool. And here comes the question. Is it even worth messing around with tax structures, commercial registrations, companies, and a lot of documents? My answer is simple. It makes sense, especially when we are talking about yachts around 2 million euros and above. For smaller vessels, 500,000 or 1 million, the cost of the entire entourage, lawyers, advisors, audits, certificates, additional technical requirements can very easily eat up what you save on VAT. Above 2, 3, 5 million euros, every percent of VAT starts to become really significant. These are amounts where a well-structured commercial setup can make a huge difference. And now we come to the topic of Malta. If you are a resident of the EU, want the yacht to operate commercially across Europe, and we're talking serious money, Malta is very often the first place to consider for a discussion. Why Malta? Because it is a full member of the Union and at the same time a country that has specialized for years in registering commercial yachts. This is not an exotic case. It is a system that works, with all its formalities, but it works. In Malta, there is an established model where the yacht is a fixed asset in business operations, it is actively used in chartering, VAT is settled in accordance with EU regulations, but with the appropriate structure and actual navigation outside EU waters, the effective tax burden can be lower than the typical 20-something%. Previously, these rates were often spectacularly low. Today, after the intervention of the European Commission, the rules are stricter. It is necessary to prove the route of the cruises, but still, with a large yacht and a well-established commercial structure, Malta remains one of the most sensible solutions. Of course, with one condition, all of this must be real, not just on paper. There must be clients, charters, invoices, crew, audits. If you're trying to pretend to be commercial, but in reality only you and your friends are sailing, it ends exactly like the stories I told in the 5th episode of our series. The third scenario is completely different. The owner lives outside the Union. The yacht is global for him. Europe is just one of the stops. For a season, for two, for a moment. In such cases, it usually makes no sense to enter EU registers and pay European VAT on the value of the yacht. The natural choice then is the so-called exotic flags, Cayman Islands, Marshall Islands, and similar registries, plus a mechanism called temporary import, which allows for temporary entry into the EU without VAT and customs duties. How does it work in practice? The yacht arrives in Europe as a vessel from outside the European Union. The owner is a resident outside the Union. Customs authorities grant a specific period, most often up to 18 months, during which the yacht can stay in EU waters without having to pay VAT on its full value. After this period, the yacht must leave EU waters or go through the full import procedure with tax. For many owners outside Europe, this is an ideal solution. They do not pay VAT on the entire vessel, arrive for the season, sail in the Mediterranean Sea, and then move on to the Caribbean, other waters. But again, one key condition is crucial: the tax residence of the owner. If you are a resident of the Union and try to pretend to be a guest from outside through a company in the Cayman Islands or Miami, sooner or later some authority will determine that it is just a facade, and then the real problem begins. To all of this, there is yet another huge piece of the puzzle: financing. Because it's one thing when you buy a yacht with cash and quite another when a loan or lease is involved. In practice, it is easiest to obtain financing in the country where you run your business. The bank knows you there, it knows your turnover, your risk profile. There you have a history and a real relationship with the financial institution. But it has its consequences. When you use financing, very often the formal owner of the yacht for an extended period is the bank or leasing company. They are the ones listed in the documents. They hold the security, and they often dictate where the yacht will be registered. From a VAT perspective, leasing has one major advantage. You don't pay the entire tax up front. You pay it in installments, together with the leasing payments. Each leasing invoice includes a portion of VAT. This spreads out the pain over time. If additionally the yacht is used commercially and honestly, meaning it is actually operated for charter, then the company can deduct this VAT from the installments, just like with other fixed assets. And then the entire puzzle of financing plus the tax structure begins to fit together very nicely. However, if you put a yacht into a company that manufactures something completely different, use it only privately, and treat VAT as a super deductible expense, You risk not only the yacht, you risk an audit of the entire business. If I had to summarize all of this for you in a few images, I see three main paths. First, you are a union resident, you want a yacht solely for yourself. We are talking about a vessel below approximately 2 million euros. The most sensible approach is pay VAT, have a VAT paid document, register the yacht under the Polish flag, and focus on enjoyment rather than structures. Second, you are a union resident, we're talking about a large yacht, you have a realistic charter plan, you want the yacht to operate for itself. Then we enter the commercial structure with a company, full accounting, and very often with Malta as the operational flag. This is already the world of business, not a luxury toy. Third, you are a resident outside the Union. Europe is just one stage of your seasons. The yacht is large and will sail globally. At that time, exotic flag and temporary import are often the most natural and honest solutions, without entering European VAT on the entire value of the yacht. And this is exactly what I wanted to convey to you in that last episode. There is no single magical answer. Instead, there are specific paths, and each has its place. Finally, one important warning. After this series, you already know that there are three things that really most likely end badly. Registering a yacht as commercial solely to avoid VAT, without actual charter activity. Forcing the yacht into a company that has nothing to do with sailing, just to write off expenses and deduct VAT, and creating fictitious offshore structures when you are an EU resident and the yacht is permanently moored in a European marina. It's exactly these kinds of ideas that lead to stories we discussed in episode 5. Individual pursuits, long-term processes, fines, and sometimes a ruined reputation in completely different areas of business. When we started this series, I wanted you to be able to say after watching it, I understand why registering the yacht, choosing the flag, and VAT are not just formalities, but crucial decisions for my safety and comfort. We went through the foundations through Poland, Malta, exotic flags through leases, structures, and through the most notorious tax scandals in the yacht world. This episode concludes this series, but it does not end the conversation about yachts. We are facing another huge topic, the crew. Who is sailing on your yacht? Under what contracts, according to which labor law? Under which flag? What are the requirements of the MLC convention? What do the minimum standards look like? Insurance? How much do crew costs vary under different flags? This is a whole different world. Therefore, I invite you now to the next mini-series, in which we will talk about hiring crew for a yacht, about pitfalls, responsibilities, and how to do it right so that the yacht is not only beautiful and tax efficient, but also safe and compliant with the law regarding the people working on it. And if after this series you have a specific plan in mind, you're thinking about buying a yacht, considering changing your flag, or simply want someone to look at your current structure and tell you if it makes sense, I would be very happy to help with that. You can contact me by phone, email, or through the website. All the contact details are in the description below. Under this episode, check out our website, because we have many interesting yachts for sale. Thank you for being with me in this series. See you on the water and in the upcoming episodes focusing on cruise.